So why is it that some remodeling companies seem immune to the price wars and they're making 50% gross profit or even higher while you're still being told that your price is too high? Well, it's not that they're just in a better market than you and it won't work in your area. In fact, coming up is a webinar that I just gave leading up to the Remodeler Summit this year, and in it you're going to learn how successful remodeling companies stay immune to price wars, even in those saturated markets, how you can apply the exact same approach in your market, again, no matter how competitive it is, and real-world examples of remodelers who are using this to become the only option that clients seriously consider. If you've ever felt stuck on price, either competing with your competition or the homeowners themselves, then this might be the thing that you're missing.
On price. Aaron, please take it away.
Thanks, EJ. Dude, too kind. What an intro.
Of course.
Well, guys, yeah, like EJ said, I'm here presenting on storytelling and how you can use that to stop competing on price. So a little background on me. I am not a contractor. I looked at a bunch of the other speakers for this event, and it was contractors and business owners, and I'm none of those things. I'm not a contractor. I've done remodels myself, and they've gone poorly, but I'm not gifted in that way. I'm not a business owner, so I can't give you the experience there. But what I have done is I've traveled all around the country. I've talked to hundreds of homeowners, remodeling clients at this point, and I've gotten perspectives both from successful remodeling companies and the homeowners themselves on why they do what they do, what decisions they make when they buy, what things are important to them, and really when it comes down to it, how they make the decision on which contractor they're choosing. And so today, my goal is just to kind of share some of my insights that I've gathered throughout that time traveling around the country. So the main problem, everything comes down to this, is homeowners want to choose the right remodeler for their project. They'll go about that a bunch of different ways. A lot of the most common ways currently is just Googling. They will go through and Google companies in their area, remodeling companies in their area. Maybe they'll go and look for a referral or something of that sort. But the bottom line is they want to make the right decision, and they don't know exactly who that is just yet. Then, as they're going to make that decision, a lot of times what happens is they'll come in and all of the remodelers, all the choices that they're looking at look exactly the same. And when this happens, people can get overwhelmed with the amount of choices. I mean, looking at these websites here, these are actual results. I literally just Googled remodeling company Houston, Texas, and grabbed the first companies that came up. None of these are our clients. They're just people out there in the world. And all of them are basically the same thing. They just have some text about remodeling. They're either premier or they're the best. You know, you have Houston's premier home remodeling contractor. Then you actually have premier remodeling contractor over here in the top left. And it's all just the same. It's a bunch of noise with nothing cutting through. And when it comes to that for homeowners, then the only thing they have to go back to, the thing that they choose based off, will be based on the price. And so one of the things we found out is when you don't create a differentiator of your own, the homeowners will choose the differentiator for you, and then they'll always just come back down to price. Because otherwise there's no reason to pick one company over the other. It's just, well, who can I get the best deal from at that point? So how can you fix this? So obviously I'm biased as a videographer, but I've talked to a ton of people and I've seen the answer for a lot of people is effective storytelling for the companies. I'll explain to you what that is and what that isn't. A lot of people think it's, well, we'll get to that in a bit. A lot of people think it's not right. It's a buzzword that people are throwing around and they don't actually know what they're talking about. I'll tell you about why it matters. We'll show some client examples, and then we'll go through and show you how you can use it to land those high-end clients. And at the end, we'll even do a Q&A, and if there's time, maybe we'll have an applause. Time permitting, of course, EJ. Okay, let's get into it. So, what is storytelling not? What is it not? This is more and more I'm hearing people throw out that buzzword. Even at our company, people will say, I'm the storytelling guy. And I think a lot of times we just think of it as a video, like an About Us video that tells your story of why you got into business. And that's just not what it is. A story is not a timeline of facts about a related topic. Most people think that's what they mean when somebody says storytelling. They think, I need to go through and say, when I was a kid, I built a birdhouse with my grandfather, and I found out like maybe I'd like to do that in the future. I graduated later on and worked for a construction company. It's a bad construction company, and then a few years later, I found out it was indeed bad. And then I started my own business, but my business wasn't going to be bad. My business was going to be good. A lot of people have that story. They have some early childhood event that makes them want to build. They go into a company, they don't like the way the person's running it at the top, or they want to have more integrity or something like that. And so they go and they do it their own. It's not a bad story. It's not that this isn't a story. It's just that to think of it in these terms is really downgrading the power of storytelling, and it's not getting the full use out of it. Telling this story can be helpful for your company, or it might not. And so my hope is what we'll go through today is figuring out what story should you be telling? How can you connect to your audience? And also understanding that the story is not just about you, but your business exists in a wider context, both for your market as a whole, but also for the individual homeowners. They have their own story that they're a part of, and we'll go through and talk about a little bit of that. So, what is a story? A story is not that little, just some nice little convenient thing that you tell, the timeline of events. A story is how we see the world. More and more research is coming out about this as people are doing psychology research and things like that and studies on this. But just like the example we gave earlier with all of the contractors' websites, every single day we are bombarded with information and noise. And somehow our brains have to take in all of that information and decide what's relevant, what do I need to remember, and what do I not. And all that's based around your goal and your current story. So this is true just for yourself, for your business, for the country as a whole. I mean, there's stories we tell about the country as a whole. And then it's also especially true for your clients. So like I said, story is how we cut through the chaos of information. It's how we decide what's important and therefore what should be remembered, and how we decide what can be forgotten. Right now, everywhere around you there is information that you can look at and digest. You could look at something on the wall over there. You could look at your keyboard. You could look at something over here. But ideally what's going on right now is you have a goal. You're trying to get something out of this presentation. And so the information that's relevant to you is what's sticking out. And you aren't paying attention to the things off to the side, at least until I mention it. So what we need to do as storytellers, as business owners, is we need to figure out what is important to people and how do we become that thing that's important? How do we become the thing that's remembered? Because in the chaos of everything, you really don't get that much time with the homeowners before they will go through and leave your website, leave your social media, however they're interacting with you. And so you don't get a ton of time to go through and get your message across. So what message do you need to get across that will actually stick with them and they will hold it as something that's important to them? So here's a video. This is the first video we created on a few years ago for Jason Rector Construction. I talked to EJ before this, and it doesn't look like it's going to play. So possibly in the description of this or something like that, we can put the link to this so you can watch a full video yourself. But I will go through and kind of narrate this, what's going on here. So we talked to Jason. He is a custom home builder in Ocala, Florida. And in this video, we talked through, he had a trip to New Orleans. And it was just a vacation. He was just going, just a nice family getaway. And while he was on the drive there, he happened across his hometown, Slidell. And it wasn't something he planned. It wasn't something that he had any clue about. He just saw a road that he recognized, and he was like, wait, I know that area. And he followed it, and he went back through his old neighborhood. And he talks about just the flood of memories that brought back for him. He remembers the times with his family, the cookouts that they would have, all the times they would go to the local pool, like the local events and all that stuff. Just that time of that family together. I mean, he talked about going and playing baseball with his parents. He talked about, the Lakeside Gators and the cookouts that they used to have in the backyard. They would lay out the newspaper and have all of that there. And the whole point in telling that, as he's going through, is he's realizing, he's sharing with the audience how important that home was to him and how much that became a part of who he was. Like going back to that physical home just brought back all of those memories and realizing those things couldn't have happened without his home. And so now, then we talk about he has his own family now and his own daughters. And he sees them growing up and realizing how amazing that is. And he passed by one of his homes the other day, and he saw, and this is a true story, he was driving by and he saw a couple walking out of the home, and they did like a kiss, and then they held hands and closed the door and walked to their car. And it just hit him. The feeling that I have when I go back and visit my old home is the same thing that I am able to help provide for people when I build their homes. And so when I build homes, it was just land, it was an open field, and now I have the ability to create a space that people can make memories in, create a space that they will be able to have their children in and have the same experiences I had when I went back and visited my old hometown. And so then from there, he talks about, when I build a home, I build it like a father. I build it like somebody who's going to create memories in this home. I think about the times I have with my daughters, and I think about how, when I'm designing these homes, how it's going to be applicable for you as a homeowner, how you're going to actually be living in this space, how it's going to be functional for you. And that's basically his, and all of that it does in 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Again, I encourage you to go back and watch that because it's different from most people's About Us videos where it's just a set of facts. But it's much more emotional, and more than that, it's pointed. It has a distinct direction that fits his market. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. So, the basics of a story, how you make that happen, is there's always kind of 3 parts. There will be a goal, something that you're looking to achieve, something that needs to happen, something that needs to get done, and there will be a problem, something that stands in the way. Maybe it's a person, some sort of oppositional force or something like that, and then there will be a solution. This is the basics of every story. There are some that are incredible, like easy examples of this, like Lord of the Rings, or Star Wars. Some of the biggest stories in our pop culture follow the basic layout of there's a protagonist, in this case of Star Wars, it's Luke Skywalker. He has a problem. There's the Galactic War. He gets this call to adventure. He goes out. He finds Obi-Wan Kenobi. That is his guide. He shows him the Force. He helps him become who he needs to be to, at the end of the day, defeat the Empire and Darth Vader and freedom to the galaxy. And they expand the story from there and all that stuff. But that is the basic story structure of every story. So from here, you can take that and apply that to your business. And it's not some silly thing of like, I guess we could make the Star Wars so maybe it'll be interesting to people and they'll stick around. That's not the point. The point is we tell stories like that because that's what we remember. That's how we physically function in the world. And so when you only have a few seconds with people, you have to hit them with a pointed story that will stick with them and help them remember you as they're going and making decisions about the buying process. So like I said with Jason's story, it was a pointed direction for his market. So in his area, he lives in Ocala, Florida. That's where he builds homes. And there's a lot of people in the area that are moving in. It's expanding. And growing market there is new builds. A lot of the old ones are lived in. The area itself is expanding. You have a lot of people coming down for vacation homes, or they'll come just in the summer times or something like that. And there's a problem with the area. We actually spoke to one of the homeowners that was out there when we were going through and traveling around. I'll talk about some ways that you can figure out what the story of your market is in a little bit. But one of the ways we were able to do it while we were out there is we just went around and we're physically talking to people in these brand new developments and seeing like what was their concerns, what was their problems with their build, what were they worried about when they were getting it done. I remember we talked to this one lady, and she wasn't happy to be talking to us. She thought we were with her home builder, who she was not happy about. We were like, no, we're with some other local home builder. But as soon as we got that sorted out, she was quickly apt to tell us all the problems she had with her home. And one of the things we found out that was very common in the area is there's big home builders there who are coming in and just putting up massive, like, just home after home after home after home, very templated, and the idea is really just to increase profits. I mean, that's all they're looking to do. They're just trying to develop this area and make money. The problem was, for her specifically, she had a 2-car garage, and she had 2 cars, and neither of them could fit in it because the person who designed the home made the garage too short for any car to fit in and have the door close. And that was one example. She gave us a ton of other ones. But the idea there was these people were coming in and building homes, and she didn't think like, oh, are my cars going to fit in the garage? She didn't think about the big home builder just coming in and doing that. But after she had gone in and thought about it, had she researched some more, she realized, I got played by these big companies. And if I could do it again, I would go through and I would find somebody who actually built a home like custom and for me, somebody much smaller with much more intentionality. And so then you can look back at that video we made for Jason and see now where we were coming from, why we chose the story that we did. So the way this story works for his market is a lot of people are moving into the area and need a home. That's their goal. They want a home, they want a place, to live. But a lot of the homes that are being built are built by large home building companies that are not thinking about the individual. They're not thinking about the functionality of the home. So Rector Construction is an independent, family-oriented builder who thinks about the homeowner. That is the main takeaway we want to get from the homeowner when they come and visit the website. That's what I'm talking. That is the core of what I mean with storytelling. It's not just the historical, this is why I started my business, this is when it happened. It is thinking about the larger story of the context of what your business is in and being able to meet people where they are and have your own addition to their story. You come in as the guide to their story. Like in the case of Star Wars, you would be the Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's another mistake that people make, is oftentimes they will think about themselves as the hero of their own story. When somebody comes in, that's not what they're looking for you to be. They are looking to have something solved in their own home. That's the reason why they're doing this. People don't get their home remodeled just because it's easy and what the heck, we got extra money. They have a goal that they're trying to get to. And so what you can do with the limited time that you are given to make an impression with them is share with them why you fit into their story, how you can help them get to their dream goal. Here's another example from Elite HVAC. This is a cool trip we went on to Colorado. And I'll go through and read through this so you can get, this is a completely different example of a story. So Ricardo was our client, and he had Elite HVAC in Colorado, and a lot of the older homes in that area needed updated or new HVAC units. Basically, the climate there was getting warmer, and they were having record high summers every year, so all of these historic, massive homes, people were coming in and vacationing in and realizing, hey, we didn't used to need HVAC. This home wasn't built with a good HVAC system, but now we need something. Like, we got to get this put in. And what they would come to find out is to get it installed into a pre-existing home, it was an outdated process, it was cumbersome, and it was very costly. You had to go through, and a lot of times they would have to move things in the ceiling, and they'd have to reframe a bunch of the walls, and it would be an absolute mess. And Ricardo's pitch, what he came in and he did was, he sold mini splits. And I'm sure you guys are aware, at the time I had no clue what a mini split was. I thought it was a fancy window unit. I thought, okay, it's kind of like a cheaper alternative to an HVAC. I mean, I guess that's all right. But after spending the time with him, after going through and doing the research, seeing why his clients were buying, he was selling to high-end homeowners, people who had money. I mean, these were vacation homes that they would buy and spend 2 months in out of the year, but they had the house year-round. And his whole thing was, mini splits are not just cheaper. They aren't the cheaper option. They are cheaper. They're easier than an HVAC system, but it's the new approach to having an HVAC system. And so now we aren't going through all the specifics of, what exactly the product does and how it does it, but speaking to their level of, look, it's cheaper. It's something that you can have more control over in your home. So each room can be climate controlled and things like that. And at the end of the day, it's much faster, much easier maintenance. And Ricardo will come in and take care of all of it for you. You don't even have to be here. And so that's how we were able to fit his market and tell that story. And so you can kind of see through both of those, two wildly different markets, two different stories, two different services. But in each one, there is a story that's going on. Something is happening in the area that people are having a need for. And you just have to do a little bit of work to go through, figure out what that is, and then see how you fit into the larger picture. So, how can you do this for yourself? There's a bunch of different ways, but we can break it down pretty easily into 3 different steps. The first one is understanding your client story. You need to go through and do some research into your area. You need to, whether that's specific, your ideal clients, or your market as a whole. You need to go through and understand the context that your business is speaking into. You got to understand who your audience is. If you don't know who you're speaking to, if you don't know who your audience is, you're not going to be telling the right story. You're not going to be speaking their language, so to speak. And so then you'll just be one of those other contractors from the websites that we showed in the beginning where it's all just noise. So after we go through and do that, the next thing is finding your place in the story. Okay, once we have the context, then it's a combination of finding out, okay, how can we help out? What's our spot in here? What's our unique value that we can give to them? Then once you have those things decided, then it's a matter of showcasing their story on your website through testimonials and videos. And we'll talk some more about that later. But it's those 3 steps. And so for the rest of this presentation, we'll go through and talk about what each one is, and I'll share some more examples. So hopefully, as you're doing this for yourself, you can get some ideas of building blocks. There are oftentimes a lot of repeating stories that happen in different areas of the country. And so you can just possibly just use some of these ideal clients for your own. So understanding your ideal client story. There's a lot of ways to do this. We used to go in and interview, we would get, we would ask people, give us a list of your favorite clients, maybe your top 5 favorite clients, and then 5 people that are just kind of middle of the road clients. And we would go through and have interviews with all of these clients and talk about what did you like about them, be entirely candid with us. What were some problems you had with it? What were you worried about? And we would go through, compile all of that data. It would be like 4 of us on the call going in, one of us interviewing, the other one's taking notes. And afterwards, we would go through and talk about it and say, okay, here's what we heard them say. Here's how it ties into what the past interview has said. And we would take those findings and report back to the company. We did it with one company, Gaiman. And one of the things we found out about them was how much people really loved the hands-on approach. I mean, Dennis himself, they would just go over the moon talking about. It was the personality and the personal touch that he gave to people, that was his differentiating factor. They weren't looking to have it done extremely fast. They weren't looking to have it done under a tight budget. What they really wanted was somebody that could walk them through it and have a custom look at what they were doing. And so that's what we used to do, and going through and doing that. And there's still times where you can do that and maybe that's appropriate. But a lot of times that's very resource heavy. And if you're in a position where you don't have those resources to hire a marketing company or somebody that can go in and do that research, compile all of that information for you, what I would really suggest then is using ChatGPT to do a lot of that for you. I've done this a few times now as well, and it's very impressive how it is able to go through and find that research for you. So you can have ChatGPT go through and read through your reviews. You can have them look at local demographic area for your target market, and you can have it create a basic outline of your ideal client. Now, you would want to include both demographics and psychographics in this. So this would be a list of things like who they are, what their age is, their income, where they live, what's their location. And then you want things about how they think. You want some of their goals. What are they looking for? What's important to them? What do they need? What is the want-to-haves and what do they actually have to have? What do they value? Not just in the contracting space, but what are their values as a whole? Are they valuing family? Are they valuing productivity? What is the thing that is a big driver in their life? And then lastly, you want it to look up their fears. What are they afraid about when it comes to hiring a contractor? What mistakes are they worried about them making? What has been holding them back from doing this for so long? Is it a money issue? Or is it I just don't want this done right. I want to find the person who can do it right. If I'm going to go through all this, I need to make sure that it's one and done. In different areas, we'll have different answers. And you might find that your niche cares a lot more about timeline and getting things done quickly and efficiently. And others, they care a lot more about having a functional design for their space. So I went through and created a prompt for you guys. If you want to go through, you can scan this QR code on your screens now, and this will take you to a Google Doc. You can take that and just copy and paste it into ChatGPT. You'll have to put in some specifics about your business name, link it to your Google My Business if you have one, and your city and region. And what that will be able to do for you is go through, look at your reviews, analyze all of those. It can go through, look at your competitors, and look at all of those. It can go through and look at just different websites. So you'll go through Reddit, different local Facebook groups and things like that to find out what are people in your area actually saying about you. What are they going through and actually, and not about just about you, but contractors in general. What are they actually wanting for their home? Then you can get a lot more practical information about what do people want in my area, what do they value. Then, instead of your sample size just being what have been my favorite clients said to us so far, you can go through and get an actual solid data set from your area. And one of the things I had ChatGPT do in here is pull specific quotes from people, and not only that, but cite where it's pulling the quotes from. Because at this point, we still know that ChatGPT is not perfect on these things. There are times it will make stuff up. So you want to go through and pull up those quotes and verify it. But it will do a lot of the legwork for you. And so you can have this go in and create a deep research run. It'll go through, take it 15 minutes, run through all the websites, and then come back with I've done it for us, for CGN, and I think it was about a 5 or 6 page report on our ideal client, both the demographics, psychographics, fears, questions they have, things like that. So once you do that, then you can come back to this system of telling the story of your market. You can come back and look at your client's goal. They are wanting something. They want to blank, but they're worried about blank. And so your solution will come in and help them blank. With the data that you get from ChatGPT or going through and doing this research on your own, talking to your clients, you should be able to figure out, let me niche down to one specific person for now. Let me just think about one group that I seemingly serve a lot. Like for a lot of people, it's aging in place, right? It is we are getting older and our bathroom is getting more dangerous for us. We have a high lip tub and we just want to stay here. We like the neighborhood. We like the closeness, the proximity to our family. But it's time to get things fixed. And so a lot of contractors will have a good niche in that market. The homeowner will say, I want to fix my bathroom to be safer for me, but I'm worried about finding somebody that can get all this done for me and have it still look beautiful. I don't want the handrails to be ugly. I don't want to feel old. A lot of times that's kind of how it goes. And so then one of our companies like Fry Remodeling, he does a bunch of these. And so they can come in and see, okay, Fry is able to come in, help us. He was able to help this person, this person, this person with their bathroom remodel. He'll be able to help us with ours as well. So along with that example I just gave, here's some other examples that we often see out in the field. You have the example of the empty nester. I want to have my kids and grandkids over more often, but our kitchen is too small for gatherings and big meals. Now, notice here that I'm not saying what their problem is. They want their kitchen remodeled. Yes, they want their kitchen remodeled, but what they want is deeper than that. What they want is they want to be connected to their kids and grandkids. That is the thing that's actually driving the remodel. In this specific example, they weren't even decided that they wanted a remodel at first. She wanted to just move altogether and find a new house. But then after looking at options, then they realized, okay, maybe we do like the area, we want to look at remodeling. But there's so many options. People never just want a kitchen remodel or something like that. There's always a deeper reason for it. And so in this example, they want to have more time with their kids and grandkids. But their problem is their kitchen is too small for the gatherings and big meals. It can get a little awkward in their space, and it holds them back from hosting more often. So then what we can do as a company is speak directly to that and put the message out there to them, both through the website, testimonials, videos. Integrity Home Pro will help us to design and build a family-oriented kitchen. Now we're no longer just having a discussion about quality of work. We're not just talking about timelines. We're not talking about communication. You are specifically saying that we are the builder that you call when you need a functional kitchen for your family. People will go through and they connect with that so much better. It's not, you're separating yourself from the noise of we have great quality work, we do everything on time, we're just fantastic all around, we take pride in our work, we have a 2-year warranty. You can have that stuff in the testimonial, but the thing that people need to come away with is that Integrity Home Pro will help us design a family-oriented kitchen. That's it. A lot of times the way this will work is we'll record a testimonial for, I don't know, a half hour, maybe 20 minutes, and people will go through and list all kinds of good details about the company. They'll go through and say, oh, they're so fantastic. I remember this time that the workers came in a few minutes early or maybe an hour early so they could get things wrapped up for us because we had this deadline we had to meet. Oh, and also I really like the way that they had their design come in beforehand. That was really cool. And the homeowners, they're just kind of spitting out random facts and good sound bites about the company. And then a lot of times what the companies will do is they will see this and say, well, that's fantastic. We got to keep all this. They're saying so much good stuff about us. We love this. And what ultimately happens is you end up with a 7-minute testimonial of them just giving sound bites. And let's be honest, people know at this point with testimonials, if they're giving you a testimonial, they're going to say good things. So having a static shot of a homeowner saying good things about you literally does not give them any more information than they had beforehand. As soon as they click on the video, that's what they're anticipating that they're going to say. They're going to say good things. They're going to say we love their quality of work, that we're so good working with them, we love our space. What you have to do is cut out all of those details that are relevant to your main story. You have to go through and say, Integrity Home Pro will help to design and build a family-oriented kitchen. Let's keep in the details that adhere to that message. And all the other beautiful, nice things they say, we're going to have to let those go. We can show our quality of work through the footage of the kitchen. We can show it through how comfortable they are with us. We'll have B-roll of us together, footage of us together. But we don't have to go through and specify every single nice thing about us. We can have that single message for somebody. They come in, they get that, and then they move on. And so that's a lot of the pitfalls that people have with that. But that's the empty nester trope there. Then you'll have the trope of a snowbird. We did this for Lua Construction out in Palm Springs. This homeowner wanted to remodel her vacation home in Palm Springs, but she lived up north in Seattle, and so she wasn't going to be around all the time. She couldn't be looking over the shoulder. She couldn't be worried about who it was. And so one of the things we specifically did was we showcased with Lua, they have a ton of people like this. They live in Palm Springs. It's a vacation area. So we specifically showed in their testimonials, and this one and another one, talking about, hey, I live far away. I need somebody that I could trust. So that way, when people watch the testimonial, they say, Lua is a trustworthy home remodeler that I can trust with my project. It's not that they have the best design sense. It's not that they care the most. It's that they are trustworthy. That's the word we need to get across to people. And again, it's not that they aren't those other things. It's just that we can show some of those, but the one thing we have to nail is the trustworthiness for people that are living far away. And so that's another example. A lot of you who live in vacation areas will have that kind of personality come in. And lastly, another example that we get a lot is people with historic homes or something like that. They'll say, I wanted to update my historic home in the district, but maybe it has to follow guidelines. I remember at Lowlark, we did this out in Seattle, and that was one of their specifications. It has to follow specific guidelines, and it needs to be very precise. And so Lowlark is the go-to company in the historic district. That's just how it is. And now we're talking about things like quality of work. Now we're talking about things like absolute precision and hitting details right on and being extremely precise with everything. Then those kind of details come up. But it's within the context of having a home in the historic district and needing to follow guidelines and making sure that is taken care of. So just going through and listing all of these things without context, people can't put together a story. They can't link together how all of those nice, beautiful things you're saying about yourself are going to help them. And so when you're able to frame it in a situation like this, it's something they can actually hold on to and continue with. Then the last step of this, and we will go into this much, much more on our actual speaking event at the summit itself, is sharing their story. I've talked a ton today about testimonials, specifically sharing people's stories and going through and creating videos. But it's more than that. It's a lot more than that. It's going through and taking that message, whatever message we've decided on for your company, and going through and having that reflected in everything that you do. It should be apparent on your website, on your videos, on your social media, in your client communication. Every touch point they have with you should kind of radiate that same story so that you're giving one clear signal to people as they're looking at you. So one of the things we have here that I'll go into more in our next presentation is the feature project page. And these are pages that go through, they tell the client story, they show beautiful photos of the project, but they also give context. And a lot of people have either a testimonial page or maybe they'll have a gallery page. And one of the things we found out when we were creating websites, we went through and looked at the analytics, and also just by talking with people, we had both the analytics back it up and then just the anecdotal evidence of people saying this. Their favorite pages were the feature project pages. These pages that combined a testimonial with a gallery. And the reason for that being, somebody could come in and see a specific example, a specific story of how did you help somebody else out? How did you help out somebody else that was in my situation? And so in that presentation, we'll go through and talk more about how to lay one of those out so that way you are conveying that story across to future prospects. Well, how do you orient the photos? What is the order of the page look like? Things like that. But the main thing is just making sure you're getting that single unified story. It's more of a sniper shot than a shotgun approach. understanding exactly what your market needs and hitting them with exactly that message through and through and through and through.